Good afternoon, folks. So in this area we've been getting rain every single day, and that leaves behind a lot of crud and crap on the road, and it's been fun in the mixed conditions. You can see it's a little bit damp here, and then you might see some mud on the road, and then you might have a dry patch. And so I wanted to do a little vlog about riding in unpredictable conditions. And so I'd have to say the first rule is to don't ride faster than you have the skill to be riding. Be a little bit conservative, because by the very nature, unpredictable conditions can surprise you. And when you're starting out, honestly, it can be tricky to know when too fast is too fast. So actually knowing your limits, it just takes experience. And experience comes from riding carefully for an extended period of time. The second comes down to proper brake technique. So when you're in low traction or tricky surfaces, braking technique becomes even more important than it is normally. When you first apply the brakes, you want to apply the rear brake first. That locks the bike down, stabilizes the bike. I know a lot of sport riders don't do that, but especially if you're riding a supermoto or an adventure bike, the weight kind of sits back, and even cruisers are even more prone to this. They like back brake. And even on a sports bike, I was trained on the racetrack by a pro rider that he applies the back brake first to lock the back down, and then he applies the front brake when he's on the racetrack. So these people who tell you, you don't need the back brake, just forget it's there, it's no big deal, whatever. Those guys don't really know what they're talking about. Don't listen to them. Because if a pro rider applies the back brake on a racetrack, then on the street you should be using your back brake. So the nice thing about the front brake is it's operated with your hand, and your hand has so much more control than your foot, so much more feel. And so the first thing that needs to happen is you need to compress the forks. Motorcycle fork design means that when the forks compress, the steering angle becomes more radical. The weight transfers onto the front tire, giving you more traction. So go light on the front brake initially, and then once you have those forks compressing and that tire ballooning out, then you can go harder and harder and harder, without locking up or applying the ABS or whatever. And then when you go off of the brakes, you want to kind of trail off, and when you brake past the tip-in point, that's called trail braking. So motorcycle experts these days are telling us, you can read about it online, search the rear brake initiative, and the experts, they used to say, get all your braking done in a straight line, don't brake when you're leaned over. But these days they don't say that anymore. The experts are saying stay off the throttle at least past tip-in, and at best be on the brakes a little bit. Tip-in is when you initiate the turn. You never want to be opening your throttle and accelerating as you add lean angle. Forget what the MSF course is teaching you about roll on through the corner. You know, brake in a straight line, roll on through the corner. That's kind of outdated doctrine. They thought that they were teaching people to be the safest on the street, but the experts these days are saying that actually that causes crashes, because when you tip it in and you add lean angle while you're on the throttle, your forks are extended and your rear is compressed and the weight's on the back tire. So when the weight's on the back tire, which tire is going to slide first? The front. And who wants to lose the front? No one. That's always a bad scenario. So as you're tipping in and you're adding lean angle, keep that throttle closed. So this is a good corner to show you. I'm braking, bumps in the corner. Now I'm accelerating. I did not, especially on a bumpy corner like that, I did not add lean angle while I was adding throttle. Number 3 is lines. Lines become extremely important. Well, they become more important when you have unexpected surfaces that you're trying to deal with. You know, lines across things like this, you want to keep your bike upright. So you want to choose a line when there's a slick portion, when there's those grates. You want to choose a line that has your bike upright over any obstacles, whether it's bumps or these expansion joints or whatever it is. You want to adjust your line so that you're as upright as you can be over those sketchy moments. And then when things aren't sketchy, you can use your lean angle and lean it in. So you want to look ahead and try and pick your line. Now when you're picking your line, you want to start wide. There's lots of diagrams online about this. Maybe I'll throw one in the video. And you want to stay wide until the right moment, okay? And that's different for every single corner. But if you enter wide and turn in just a little later than you would on the racetrack or for absolute speed, it's going to be safer. You're going to have more time to react, more time to slow down, adjust your line, brake, you know, whatever needs to be done to get to save yourself when that unexpected thing happens. And you notice I say when, because I guarantee you it will happen. You ride long enough on the street and something unexpected is going to happen. Somebody's going to come around the corner in your lane. There's going to be, you know, a pothole or a patch of gravel, or, you know, some crazy thing that you don't figure on. You see, I kept the bike upright over the slick bit. So when you're picking your line, you want to watch. If you're on a dirty road like this, you don't want to run it out to the edge, to the very edge of the road, on the outside of the turns, because cars automatically cut turns. It's lazy driving, but it also straightens up the corner for them. And when they cut a turn like this, when they cut a right, see what the car's doing? He's got his tires right on that line. Well, he's not the only one. A lot of drivers are going to do that. That's going to be the standard thing. Well, when they do that, guess where the gravel in the corner gets pushed to? The outside. So the outside is going to be dirty. Wow, this road really is a treat. It's great show and tell. You never know what you're gonna get. Sections of gravel and everything. I love it. They will clear where their tire tracks go. When I lived in Australia, in Tasmania, they don't have enough money to keep all their roads perfect. So the roads are a bit narrow, kind of like Taiwan, but they like to line the edges of the road with gravel. The cars come along, and the utes, you know, the 4x4s, they cut the turn and they hit that gravel and they splash it into the road. But continuous driving will keep 2 tire tracks clear. So it's really common right on the apex of the turn, right where the car is gonna cut in. He's gonna hit that gravel and spray it out over the road. And sometimes that's the blind part of the turn, which keeps things really exciting. And I have a friend who actually crashed on it. When you enter that turn, you got to set up in the car tracks, because you know this is a reoccurring thing. If you see something once, especially in a given country, you're going to see it again. Learn to predict. Learn to set the bike up. Use the line and be where you want to be. You see how I stayed wide? When you're on blind turns like that, it's best to stay wide so you can have a look through it, and then you can cut once you can see what's happening. You can straighten it out later on. See how I'm kind of straightening this out? I'm using less lean angle than I would if I tried to follow the lane exactly. Don't follow the lane exactly. So you see this corner, it's kind of blind, I'm staying wide. And then once I can kind of see in it, downshift, avoid the pothole, tuck it in and go. I say bikes are like women. They like a smooth, confident man. And it's totally true. The next thing I want to talk about is watching for little things. Motorcycles are all about the little things. One of the little things that you can see right here is painted lines. Painted lines are slick, especially when they get wet. Like, being observant, noticing next to this road, it's a little bit mossy, and if moss is like ice, it really is. Wet leaves. So you see those trees, the purple trees, underneath them, underneath these trees, are going to be leaves. And on a day like today, leaves are going to be wet. And so they're going to be a challenge. You got to watch for those. Wet leaves are like ice when you hit them. Use your motorcycle to feel for traction. Especially on a road like this. As long as you stay in the middle of the road, traction is pretty consistent. Wet pavement is pretty consistent when it comes to traction. So, how do you test for traction? Well, you test it carefully. You either use the rear brake or the throttle. That's why I like big bikes, because if you're ham-fisted enough with the throttle, you can get it to step out for sure. So if you're at a given lean angle and then you just feed in power, slowly and easily until the tire slips. If you fed in a lot of power, then you could be leaning more. If you barely fed in any power and then it tried to slip around, you're at the pretty much down at the maximum lean angle you want to be at. So if you don't have power or you're going downhill, you can use the rear brake. Drag the rear brake into the turn. Lean it in, and when you feel that tail end start to slide a little bit, it start to lock up. Like sometimes I'll do it if I'm unsure of the surface, I'll just give it a lot of rear brake when I'm completely upright, and I'll feel when that grabs, and if I barely touch the brake and it locks up, I know, well, I better be pretty careful with the front brake. I thought the